Um, Hello everyone. Happy Saturday. Don't know what's going on. I switched some things. I got my motorized standing desk done and put together, and I shared a picture of that into Discord. And now it also shifted my all my data to the Synology NAS, and now most things are broken because the file structure is a little different. So stuff is not working, like the chat, and I have to figure that out. I don't know. Today's going to be kind of broken and messed up, but we'll kind of go from there. Maybe I can get some of this fixed before before. So I don't see chat in that's activity feed. I don't see that, or I don't see chat either in OBS or on stream either. So something is really not right. If anyone can see me, please let me know. Yikes, I wasn't expecting this to be quite so broken today. I suppose I made a few too many changes all at once. I guess we'll take that as a lesson learned. I don't want 3 lines there, I want 2. And this says 2 lines. I'll put 2. Line count. 2. How about now? Does this work better? Are you going to give me just 2 lines, or are you going to give me 3 lines? 2 lines is good. All right, good. Good. Here we go. No, that is 3. Son of a bitch. Save. Okay. Well, all my stuff is broken. I apologize. Let's keep moving. Can you see? Let me check on Twitch. See if anything is on Twitch. I'm sure there's chat coming through there. Probably won't be. I'm sure there's chat coming through there. No chat coming through there. Well, I'll have to figure that out. I apologize. Keep it open, actually, so I can see chat. All right, here we go. Yeah, so it's all messed up. All right, so here we are. How you doing, everyone? It's Saturday. We survived. My desk is really, it's awesome, but it's really changed how my green screen is going, and I can't actually do my stream standing up yet, so I have to get that figured out. So yeah, a lot of things are broken. I'm gonna have to figure it out. So, all right, here we go. The wife is away this weekend for, well, actually several days since Thursday, on kind of a birthday vacation sort of a thing. So I've had the child and I together, and we're in the process of putting together her the computer that we bought for her, which is done through NZXT Build, and we're about 75% of the way through it. So she'll have a decent computer to work with. She's 13 years old, and she's getting to that age where she's actually going to need a full computer. So we're putting that together, and then I'll have to show her how to use it, because a computer at this age, at 13, it's a huge amount of responsibility, especially when we have a local a network at home, and we've got routers and stuff like that. And she's got to be very careful, otherwise, stuff could end up going very bad very quickly, and we don't want that. So she has to teach her about using the internet, teach her about using, spamming and hackers and all that sorts of stuff. So it's going to be interesting. She wants to get into like video editing or photo editing or something like that, and it's I can show her a little bit of that. So I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. What else? Because the timer just went off. Yeah, because my counter isn't working on the main page, so I have the Stream Deck set up with a multi-action to shift me to this, and that, yeah. All right, so huge clusterfuck today. All right, so what do we have planned today? Any questions or comments before we get started on this ridiculous broken stream for today? I think everyone can hear me fine. Am I listening to audience? What am I listening to? Where am I getting that sound from? Okay. All right, let's get going. Oh, that's why. Let me change that just a second. Let that go out. I want that to go out, not there. I want this to go out NVIDIA. Son of a bitch. I want it to go out here. That sound okay? But I can hear it though. Audience? Me. It's double. Okay, fuck. Or let me change this. It would be to this. Okay. Let me hear one. How about now?
Can you hear me now? That's really loud. Really loud. Hello? Hello?
Okay, that's really loud. Let's try this. Not working. Okay. All right, we'll move on. I gotta mess with that. It wasn't working before. Off. So I will have to work on that later. So much stuff broken. All right, here we go. All right, Article 1. Questions, comments, suggestions before we move on? Anything? Whatever. All right, here we go. The world population is... Why can I hear this? Why am I hearing this? That's why. No. That's why. No. Hello? 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 It's like I'm going to end this voice mod thingy since it's not working right. But I can still hear it. Oh, right one, that's why. Hello? All right, there we go. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? You can't hear me. Can you hear me now? All right, can you hear me now? All right, you can. All right, here we go. The world population is going to hit 8 billion any day now. It's from the Byte. This is pretty short. The global population is set to hit 8 billion people by November 15th, 2022, the day before my birthday. The report also predicts 8.5 billion people by 2030, 9.7 billion by 2050, and 10.4 billion in 2100. Or, in simple terms, a rapid slowdown in the explosive growth we've seen over the past century or so. Though we've known the population was going to hit this number since July of this year, the Wall Street Journal pointed out today that it's now essentially imminent, with it now being possible the world will hit the giant round number any day now, really. Peak performance. This is really annoying. Although the UN thinks we'll eventually cross the 10 billion mark, the Wall Street Journal argues that may not actually be the case. Wolfgang Lutz, founding director of the Wittgenstein Center for Demography and Global Human Capital at the University of Vienna, predicts that education and increasing quality of life could drastically slow global fertility. Okay, yes, so this is, I was going to talk about this earlier, but we can do this now since he mentioned it. What he's basically referring to is the demographic transitions. I know I talk about that here on occasion. When you're looking at the way population grows, as the society becomes more first world, better healthcare, better education, transportation, internet access, housing, all that sort of stuff, that the number of children that they have goes down. And there's also this direct correlation between the level of education in the family and how the population goes down as well. The more educated you are, the fewer children you tend to have. So there's that too. That's a large part of it. So as some countries are moving and getting more and more advanced, more and more first world, that population is going to go down. Then actually the United States, France, and several other countries here in the world are dealing with a population decline because of this sort of a thing. So yeah, all the statistics I have seen is, we'll hit by 2100 about 10 billion, and then that'll be kind of peak, and then it'll go down to about 8 billion after that. Now, generally that shouldn't be a problem, but within capitalism, it most certainly is, because capitalism needs people, and you can't support infinite growth and infinite production when you have a receding population. So this is highly problematic, and this is going to cause, climate change notwithstanding, this is going to cause great economic hardship throughout the entire world. Then hopefully the imminent collapse of capitalism, and then a shift to the resource-based economy. Guy can wish, can he? All right, there's two big questions, Lutz told the paper. First, how rapidly fertility will decline in Africa. The other question is China and countries with very low fertility. Now I can hear my voice. Why can I hear my voice? Oh, that's why. Okay. Sharing is caring. As the population grows, it'll cause significant pain points. The most alarming might be the population bomb already being felt in some parts of the world, caused by a rapidly aging cohort without enough youngsters to care for them. The total population in the end is a meaningless number. Lutz told the Wall Street Journal. It depends what these people are able to do, what their skills are, whether they have enough to eat. So this is correct. However, it's only really a major problem within capitalism, because money is required, people to work, and all that sort of stuff. But yes, a rapidly aging population and no one to care for them is problematic. However, that can be dealt with a lot of automation, like the advancements of robots that can help with that sort of a thing. It's going to be a tricky thing to deal with. And one of the ways we can actually deal with that is, of course, robots and levels of automation, but also like we watched did we watch the video? No, I think I shared that onto Discord, but treating aging like a disease, right? If we can cure the effects of aging and not just make the your last few years still active, then that'll solve a lot of our problems. That way we don't have people who are old and broken and just falling apart at the seams as they get older, which is a lot of what happens, especially if you're not rich. So working on aging, working on the aging-based disease, and making sure that those don't affect people. That's one way we can help deal with the decline in the aging population that's living longer, but also the reduction in fertility rate, which means less people to care for those who are older. So it's kind of a two-way street to deal with that, making aging more graceful for everyone, and also getting more robots to help with that sort of a thing. Is video buffering? Okay, I need to stop this. Okay, so I've stopped it on my end, so hopefully it won't affect the stream so much. If you guys are having issues, let me know. My stream's a complete mess today. Got to get in there and mess with it and fix it. All right, next one. Caitlin Johnstone. Steve Winrich, how you doing? Welcome, welcome. Good evening. So you're somewhere in Europe. For me, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. How you doing today? My stream was a huge mess today. Huge mess. Because I got a new desk and a new NAS and all sorts of things. So a lot of my stuff isn't quite working yet. I have to get that figured out. But we just finished this article on hitting almost 8 billion soon. Then we're moving on to this one here. I don't cover a lot of her stuff as much as I would like because did some history research. I needed a drink. History sucks, doesn't it? I mean, the horrors that humanity is capable of under the violence, the systemic and structural violence visceral to capitalism makes us do really fucking shitty things. Genocide, wars, poverty, inequality. Yeah, it's pretty horrific. What are you studying specifically? Historically. I haven't gotten too deeply into history. Mostly I've studied history of Christianity, the history of the United States, at least in the Founding Fathers era, and that's sort of a thing, but that's pretty much it. Worked through the protocols of the Wannsee Conference in Berlin, 1942. Is that the, when the Germans surrendered? Is that what that was? Yeah, go ahead. Yep, feel free. Feel free. We can check it out. Oh, actual scans. Oh, so you can read this. Wow. Cool. What is this? Yeah, what exactly is this? Is this the yeah, what is it? It's when German decided the final solution. Oh, this is what their plan was? Can you give us a kind of a brief synopsis of what their plan was? Definitely looks old. Oh, I can't get there. Let me go here. Nope. 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 Let's translate, yes. Okay, yeah. The synopsis would be good. I imagine if that is kind of one of the Nazis' plan, it's probably going to be pretty horrific. Genocide and just eugenics had to be a large part of it. Get all Jews out of German territories on legal basis. If there are no legal reasons, make laws. Okay, yeah, Sure. Yeah, it's much more palatable if it's legal to do such things. But that's a good place to start. And that's in 1942. When did they surrender? Wasn't it like 45 or something like that? Now I gotta check. Surrendered. Yeah, May 7th, 1945. Yeah, okay. All right, so they still had a few years left to their the horrors they were doing. Oh, are you from Germany? I'm in the U.S. I'm in South Central Wisconsin in the U.S. Yes. Okay. Cool. Cool. Welcome. I've been to Germany once for about 5 or 6 days. I was in Leipzig for 3 days and Weimar for about 2 days. Southwest Germany. Okay. Yeah, I was there in 2002, a long time ago. Oh, 20 years ago, actually. 20 years ago. I was visiting a friend there. She was going to college in Leipzig at the Bauhaus. That's where she went for architecture. That was a summer. That was a good summer. Is there anything else interesting you learned from this document? Or terrifying? I have some friends who played Bolt Action. One of my friends it's a minis tabletop game, World War II. And one of my friends is really big into Germans and World War II history and that sort of a thing. I've played it probably 2 or 3 times. My friend, he had a whole bunch of armies, and he gave me one of his that I could play. It was the Russians. My wife is Russian. She's from Belarus, Belarusian. So that's kind of a thing that she is that she watches movies and documentaries on too. She'll watch some of that World War II stuff. As long as it's not too bloody. She can't handle high levels of suspense. But she will watch some on that. And she also watched stuff on the Russian Revolution too. That's kind of a big thing for her. But I don't necessarily get into that stuff. I'm more into fantasy and science fiction and that sort of stuff. If you check my links in the About page, you've got Facebook, my blog. Oh, speaking of which, I've been blogging about politics for over a decade. It's my blog, and these are my policies if you're interested. I've got over 200 pages of policies here as well. I mostly post about capitalism and resource-based economies. That's generally what I'll write about. On the stream, we'll cover the 3 C's. I'm back. Okay. Gotcha. I kept babbling because that's what I need to do. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and show this again. This is my policy site, and this is my blog. If you're interested in learning more, I've been blogging about politics for a decade, and on this, I generally write about capitalism and resource-based economies. On here, on the stream, we'll cover the 3 C's: capitalism, coronavirus, and climate change. I'm a climate doomer, and then we also do some sustainability, future tech, and that sort of thing. And we'll have a little of everything today, actually. Got a lot of future tech towards the back end, and we've got this article here by Caitlin Johnstone. I don't normally cover her stuff because when I hit a link of hers, it's either going to be an article. Oh, you were in a concert in Leipzig? Oh, okay, cool. I attended that summer in 2002, I attended a contemporary classical concert with my friend. So that was cool. And so I graduated college in 2002, and then I went to Europe and visited friends there. And in Russia, I saw 2 ballets. Yes, it was in, actually it wasn't Russia, it was Belarus, in Belarus. I saw 2 ballets there. Yeah, and then, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, I went to my first opera. Yeah, only once. Cool. What did you see there in Leipzig? or listen to. Why? No, I don't know. I'll normally listen to some metal and some hard rock. My taste will go, actually, back in the day when I was growing up in the 80s, Kenny G, Madonna, Michael Jackson, all the way up to Metallica. I still listen to a lot of that stuff except for Kenny G, but now my tastes have gotten a little heavier. Listen to a little bit more of Disturbed, Five Finger Death Punch. I found out about Hailstorm a few years ago. I love Hailstorm. And then I also added The Pretty Reckless to my repertoire. Tried to visit Russia in 2001, but I forgot to apply for visa in time and didn't have enough money. Ah, that sucks. Yeah, bribery is a big thing there. When I was in there in Russia in 2002, I was there visiting a friend, and I was visiting a girl there, but her and her boyfriend were together, and I stayed with them, which was great. They were great. And the boyfriend's sister was showing me around, and we went to the this was in Moscow. We couldn't go into Red Square because it was closed. But while we were there, an officer tried to give trouble for me, but she took care of it for me. I think I did have to give him money so that he would go away. So yeah, that's a thing there. It was pretty exciting. Subway to Sally, an Eastern German folkish. Oh, okay. Folk metal band? How does that work? That's interesting. I can't imagine bringing folk music, at least as it is here in the United States, and metal together. That's interesting. If you have a link to them, throw them in here, and I'll take a look. It sounds interesting. Folk metal. Cool. Is that one of your favorite bands that you listen to? Was it kind of a concert of opportunity? I've been to Bon Jovi once, Def Leppard several times, Trans-Siberian Orchestra once. That's when I graduated. It's kind of my birthday present to myself. What else? There haven't been a whole lot. Oh, my wife and I saw Two Cellos a few years ago before COVID. Two Cellos was cool. Bon Jovi, Coldplay for my wife. I think that's about it. I don't get out too often. I'm an introvert. I don't people. Yeah. Yeah, Def Leppard. Love Def Leppard. That's my favorite band growing up. Russia was a short-term decision. I did a 6-week. Oh, okay. Your Ford Fiesta? Nice. What countries did you hit? When I was there, I only hit. I was there for 10 weeks. I hit 4. I had 5 weeks in Prague in the Czech Republic, 3 weeks in Belarus, mostly Mogilev, 1 week in Russia, in Moscow, and one week in Germany, Weimar and Leipzig.
Es ist zweifellos für jeden, der hier auf irgendeiner Bühne stehen kann.
Hold on. Rome. Where are you? Browser.
Das Metal-Paradies. So gut wie jedes andere Paradies, aber es gibt auch Leute, die nicht im Paradies leben. So wie das Mädchen, das wir jetzt besingen.
They definitely look metal. Oh, look at that.
Woher kommst du, kleine Schwester? Mit der Last auf deinen Schultern. Mit
Okay.
So viel Grau. Woher kommst du, kleine Schwester? Mit so dünnen, kalten Fingern und dem Zittern in der Stimme. Wie bei einer alten Frau. Komm zu mir, kleine Schwester.
Interesting. I like the metal sound to it, and they got some of the traditional instruments in there, right? So that was that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. What was your favorite place to visit? All the Baltic states. Cool. The 4 places I visited, Belarus was my favorite. I had some very close friends. I was there visiting my best friend's girlfriend and her family. I was staying there with them, and I was there for 3 weeks. It was amazing. The country was garbage because the government is corrupt, but the people were amazing. My best friend's girlfriend and their family. It's the only place I cried when I left because people were so great. That was cool. It was a great trip. And my best friend actually pushed me to do it because he spent 2 months in the Philippines. We went together. God, it was 95 or 96 when I was in the military. We went there to visit a friend of ours to see her get married. So we went there, and I could only stay there for 2 weeks because I was in the military at the time. But he stayed there for 2 months, and then when I graduated college, he's like, just go to Europe. I had just enough money to do that. And actually, the way it turned out is my best friend's girlfriend left one day, and I left the next day. So I left we both left my best friend for several months. I was there for 10 weeks, and she was there I think for 3 months, finishing her education. And then she came back, probably 3-4 months later. But yeah, we abandoned him and went to Europe. So it was pretty cool. I'm glad he pushed me to do it because it was an amazing experience. I was just very fortunate that while I was there, I had friends to go to and to travel. Warsaw, okay, and Kaliningrad. Okay, what'd you like? See, Warsaw, Poland, Kaliningrad. What'd you like about Kaliningrad? That was fairly significant in World War II, was it not? Warsaw, Poland. I flew through Warsaw. That's the closest. I've never actually been into Poland, but I've flown through there several times. Typically on my way over to Belarus, where my wife lived, or where my wife's family is. I've been there probably 3 times. I think each time we traveled through Warsaw. My wife, where she was born, she had, I think she was born near the Polish border, so she listened to a lot of Polish when she was growing up, so she can kind of understand what people. Was German until 45. Yeah, okay, to the very end. Then Königsberg. No, the umlaut is. Oh my God, I used to remember how that's pronounced. Is it Königsberg or Königsberg? Ooh, it's ooh. Königsberg. Jesus. I'm such an American. I used to remember, but I don't anymore. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. All right. So how about we get to reading this article? Are you into politics at all? Number 2? Königsberg. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. I have to research how to pronounce that, the umlaut. I used to know, but I just can't remember anymore. So are you into politics much? That's what I generally cover. I generally cover, U.S. politics, of course, and then some global stuff too, because a lot of what the problems with capitalism and the horrors of the world that we have today are, the issues with capitalism, monetary systems, and the biopsychosocial effects upon the entirety of humanity as a globalized civilization. And if you go to my blog, I have a lot written there about. Yeah, it was like when I was growing up, I didn't care about politics or religion. It wasn't until my 30s that I got into either. And as I've gotten into politics more, I've kind of realized how much of a privilege that is. It's that white male American privilege that I have. And as I've gotten into like poverty and inequality, I've become much more acutely aware of my privilege that I have. And just there was a quote in I can't remember what the movie is on Netflix, like Matilda Holmes. It's like Sherlock Holmes' cousin or something like that, the girl. And there's a quote in there that kind of said something similar. It was in the 1800s, and a woman was talking to Holmes, and Holmes said he wasn't into politics, and this lady he was talking to was black, and well, that's privilege of a white male to not be involved in politics or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, what got me into politics was actually gay marriage here in the United States, starting 2005, 2006, and then it kind of, I followed the Proposition 8 trials through 2008 to 10, which is what brought gay marriage into the United States, and then I went into other areas of politics, inequality, racism, and that sort of thing. Yeah, it's if I would have told myself when I was younger that this is what I would be doing at this age, I wouldn't have believed a thing, because I didn't care about any of it at all. But now it's what I do. Blogging about it, thinking about it, streaming about it, it's all my thing. All right. Any more questions or comments before we continue reading? This one is kind of it's not too bad. Not too bad. And if you don't know Caitlin Johnstone, she's a good person to follow on Twitter. She's got some very good leftist takes on things. All right. All our systems are built to elevate viciousness. Oh, and I'll share with you the article I have. Go on. Okay. All right, cool. That'll help chill the the horrors. I have this post, the tension within methods of exchange, which kind of explains why things are so horrible here within capitalism. It's like a 9-minute read, so if you get bored between puffs or something, you can peruse that. All right, this is from August 11th. This is 2 days ago. There's a scene in The Usual Suspects, great movie, where Kevin Spacey tells the fable of the mysterious Kaiser Soze and how he became a crime lord. One story the guys told me, the story I believe was from his days in Turkey, he says. There was a gang of Hungarians that wanted their own mob. They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't. Spacey's character describes the way the Hungarians came after Soze and his family to take over his drug-dealing business. But the viciousness with which they did so was no match for the viciousness that they are met with. Then he shows these men of will what will really was, Spacey says, describing the way Soze kills his own family and then wipes out the families and friends of the entire Hungarian gang. And what's funny is, if you carefully watch the way power moves in the world, you will see that this is pretty much how it works. The most vicious among us are elevated to the top because all our systems are built in a way which elevates viciousness. Yeah, it's not viciousness explicitly, but it definitely leads to that. It's a sociopathy. The tension within methods of exchange creates a society which is based on competition. And if you're competing against each other, then that creates an automatic, that should be a red flag right there, because it pits people against people, families against family, countries against countries, states against states, and so on and so forth, which creates in that competition leads to exploitation, and then which leads to it leads to sociopathy, which leads to exploitation and violence and the destruction of others. And then that goes to viciousness. And that's a biopsychosocial result of capitalism and competition. If we want to change things, we have to change the way we think about things and shift to an economic system which is based on cooperation, which is what the resource-based economy is. Yeah, let's go ahead and watch this. It's a good, great movie, great clip.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist. One story the guys told me, the story I believe, was from his days in Turkey. There was a gang of Hungarians that wanted their own mob. They realized that to be in power, you didn't need guns or money or even numbers. You just needed the will to do what the other guy wouldn't. After a while, they come into power and then they come after Soze. He was small time then, just running dope, they say. They come to his home in the afternoon looking for his business. They find his wife and kids in the house and decide to wait for Soze.
Yikes. Okay.
Business.
That's a bit much. You get the idea. If you haven't watched the movie, watch the movie. It's great. All right. The U.S. empire is able to dominate the world exactly because it has the will to do what the other guy wouldn't. Whenever I lay out my evidence that the U.S. is the most tyrannical regime on earth, I'll get someone conceding that this is true, but arguing that the U.S. only behaves that way because it is the most powerful. Any other government with the power of the United States would behave with the same amount of viciousness or worse, they argue. Okay, sure, but we're the ones doing it currently. And I always tell them that they've got it exactly backwards. The U.S. isn't uniquely vicious because it is the world's most powerful government. The U.S. is the world's most powerful government because it is uniquely vicious. And we have one of the highest levels of inequality in the developed world. It's like 350 to 1 or something like that. The United States put an exclamation point at the end of the Second World War by dropping 2 nuclear bombs on Japan, not because it needed to, it didn't, but because it wanted to intimidate the Soviet Union. It then immediately launched into a succession of new wars and strategic operations of astonishing viciousness with the goal of eventually becoming the global dominator. It achieved this at the fall of the USSR, after which it immediately instituted a policy of working to ensure that no rival superpowers ever develop and begin working towards full spectrum dominance of the land, sea, air, and space. All of the major international conflicts of our day are the direct results of these policies. None of the people driving the imperial power structure which rules over us are in their positions because of their wisdom or kindness, which are weaknesses within capitalism. Oligarchs get to the top of their corporate and financial ladders by being willing to step on whoever they need to step on to get ahead. Military strategists get to their positions by demonstrating an aptitude for military domination. Intelligence officers get to their positions because they understand how to facilitate the interests of the oligarchic empire. Politicians get to the top by displaying a willingness to serve imperial power. And this principle tracks from the top down through the rest of our entire society. The only valuing system we have for human behavior is money. But what human behavior does money value? That's exactly what my post talks about. Competitiveness makes money. War and militarism make money. Ecocide makes money. Sickness makes money. Finite commodities make money. The entanglement of corporate and state power makes money. Propagandizing people into believing they need more than they have makes money. What doesn't make money? Kindness, collaboration, peace, exactly. A thriving biosphere, health, psychological well-being, political transparency and integrity, decisions made to benefit the whole, sources of energy that can't be controlled by the powerful, abundance, people being content with what they have. That's exactly right. And That's what my tensions within methods of exchange talks about, and that's exactly right. And this is the problem, that monetary systems and competition don't reward collaboration and cooperation, because cooperation is antithetical to capitalism because it is antithetical to competition. Yes, I even talk about this in my post on the cancer of capitalism. I'll go and throw that in here for you. This is it's just really. Goldman Sachs asked in biotech research report, is curing patients a sustainable business model? Right? Right there. There's capitalism for you. Doing good things for people doesn't make you money. Money has no wisdom. The invisible hand of the free market will never value the better angels of humanity. Pharmaceutical companies have a vested interest in the valuing of treatments over preventions and cures. The arms industry has a vested interest in inflaming hostilities between nations. Ecocidal industries have a vested interest in ensuring that they remain able to rape and pillage our planet without legal intervention while offloading the cost of consequences to the public. Yeah, that's called the negative externalities. So if you have something like fossil fuel industry destroying stuff, they don't have to pay to clean up anything. That the negative externalities, the negative consequences of their business gets offloaded to the social, so that they do their drilling and their fracking, and then the people in those areas end up getting cancer and dying, and they don't have to pay anything for it. Monopolistic corporations have a vested interest in intertwining themselves with government power to protect themselves from antitrust cases. Everything we ache for our world to be the way we know it ought to be, deep down in our heart of hearts, is subverted by the systems we have in place, which are all geared toward taking it to the exact opposite direction. The world will never know peace as long as war is profitable, and I talk about that in my policies too. The world will never know health as long as sickness is profitable. The ecosystem will never thrive as long as ecocide is profitable. We will remain ruled by tyrants for as long as our systems elevate tyranny. To have a healthy world, we're going to need systems in place which elevate health instead of viciousness. A cooperation versus competition. Until the gravitational pull of those systems will continually steer us toward dysfunction. Hoping we can move toward peace and harmony without changing those systems is like stepping off a cliff and hoping you don't fall. We need to move from competition-based models to collaboration-based models, systems which value working in collaboration toward the greater good, both in collaboration with each other and with our ecosystem. Until we do, we'll fall every time. Yeah, this is such a great article, and it's really getting to the core of what I try to approach in my policies. Part one of my policies is my 8 philosophical pillars for peace within humanity. And this is actually the most important part of my policies. You can throw everything away except for this, and you'll get so much farther ahead. But the most important pillar is the very first one, which is interdependence. And interdependence is the direct opposite of what capitalism values. As Caitlin there talked about, it values competition, which values sociopathy, psychopathy, and exploitation, and all those sorts of horrors that come from it. So interdependence is what she was really talking about. We need a socioeconomic system which values the interdependence of humanity, not only with itself, but also the humanity with the natural world. Because humanity is not above and beyond our global ecology, even our universal or cosmic ecology. We are a part of a greater system. So this is the sort of thing that we need to have at like a national and global level. Great article there. Great article. All right, questions, comments before we move on to the next one. The next one, America, Land of the Dying. Alarming study shows U.S. killing its own population. Stunning, I know. Because high levels of inequality. Oh, that's why. There we go. This is from August 8th, last week sometime. All right, researchers find that the nation had become an outlier among other rich countries in mortality rates long before the pandemic, and that Americans are dying younger than their peers abroad. Okay, yeah, so we've talked about this before, and it's pretty much summed up by inequality. If you want some amazing books to read on this topic, it's right here in my introduction. Books you need to read. These first two books here are by the same people. The spirit level and the inner level, don't listen to the titles. They make no sense at all. But both these books cover talking about how the level of, if you give them the level of inequality in a country or city or whatever, they can pretty much use that to predict a lot of factors, from crime rates, incarceration rates, literacy rates, teenage pregnancy rates, suicide, depression, alcoholism, all sorts of things. That's pretty much what it comes down to. And that's what this is going to basically point to. The United States has one of the highest levels of inequality in the developed world. So from other first world countries, because we have one of the highest rates of inequality of our peers, our lifespans are shorter. Everything else is, all the bad stuff is high and all the good stuff is lower. Like here in the United States, even rich people die like 7 to 10 years earlier than rich people in Europe. There's lots of things like that. That book, those two books go into it. And in the second book, they get into kind of the evolutionary psychology behind it. So both those books are a really good read. Really good read. With its economic and military might, America is hard to beat on technological wonders, space exploration, and top-notch universities. But when it comes to health, a fundamental prerequisite to a fulfilling life, the U.S. isn't delivering and hasn't been for a long time. Researchers now find that the big picture of health failings is even graver than we already know. Okay, so it's not just the inequality aspect, but the fact that we don't have universal health care is a part of that inequality, because rich people can get whatever health care they want, poor people can't, and so on and so forth. But the fact that we don't have universal health care is a large part of that as well. It's horrific. We pay, twice as much as people in Europe do for healthcare and for significantly shittier outcomes. Piles of studies have called attention to the fact that in the country ranking number 1 in healthcare spending per capita, people are living shorter lives, feeling more depressed, and are more likely to skip treatment due to cost than in many developed nations. In a performance ranking of 11 high-income countries compiled by the Commonwealth Fund in 2021, the American healthcare system came in dead last, with the worst outcomes of any of the nations studied. Of course. The only wealth is life, wrote the 19th century critic John Ruskin. Recent research indicates that America may be rich in dollars, but getting poorer in ways that matter the most. In a stunning report, Missing Americans, Early Death in the United States, 1933 to 2021, Boston University professor of global health and epidemiology, Jacob Bohr, and colleagues pored over the data from the CDC and a global mortality database. During the period investigated, they compared U.S. mortality rates with those of Canada, Japan, and 16 Western European countries. How many American lives would have been saved each year, asked the researchers, if U.S. mortality rates had matched those of other wealthy nations? A staggering number is the answer. Oh my God, yes. So, one of the concepts I talk about I think I talk about this in my policies, but I also talk it in my blog post. It's humanity's lost prodigies. Now, this concept goes deeper than just healthcare, but it's directly related. Like if we greatly reduce inequality, which includes healthcare, like how many people that would have died in poverty, and children which would never have had the chance at education or anything. You're back again. Okay. Yeah, so reading this article on why the United States' healthcare is shitty, and the fact that people in the United States die earlier than those in Europe, even though we spend twice as much money on healthcare. Yeah. So if we would have had high levels of equality and a great healthcare system, we a lot of people would not have died, and we would have had a lot more children who have grown into adults who would have gone on to do great things. How many prodigies have we lost due to not having good healthcare? All right, in a stunning new report, Missing Americans, Early Death in the United States, 1933 to 2021, Boston University professor of global health and epidemiology, I just read that. I'll read it again. Poured over data from the CDC and a global mortality database. During the period investigated, they compared U.S. mortality rates with those of Canada, Japan, and 16 Western European countries. How many American lives would have been saved each year, asked the researchers, if U.S. mortality rates had matched those of other wealthy nations? A staggering number is the answer. Millions gone missing. Yeah, there's globally, what's the statistic? It's like 18 million people die every year due to capitalism, due to inequality, not having healthcare, and all that sort of stuff. And then like 8.7 million people die each year due to pollution. So that's like capitalism kills, at the very least, by these limited counts, 30 million people a year. 30 million people a year. Now this will take up another facet of it. According to the researchers, the U.S. started out of the gate in 1933 as a global health frontrunner, showing a significant advantage in mortality rates over the peer countries studied. But starting in the 1970s, something went awry. Overall, Americans began to die at higher rates than their peers, a trend that grew steadily and picked up steam in the 2000s. By the year 2019, the number of annual excess deaths had reached a stunning 656,353. Bohr and his colleagues referred to these people who died as missing Americans, the friends, family members, and colleagues who would still be with us if only modern U.S. healthcare and social policy lived up to their early promise. Yes, so this 656,353 people have died since 1933 to 2019. That we have healthcare that we have. Yes, there are also flaws. Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm happy you do too. Just ship some of that shit over here, please. I want some. I don't know how many. I spend over $1,000 a month for my wife and daughter and I on healthcare. I'm pretty sure it's either over 1,000 or just under 1,000, something like that, on healthcare, and it's ridiculous. And I've always paid for the maximum for insurance just to make sure we have whatever healthcare that we need in case something happens. But yeah, I'm jealous, super jealous. Instead of like supporting me through Patreon, could you send me some of your German healthcare over here? I'd appreciate that instead. Consider the figure of 656,353 missing Americans is the number of excess deaths that's just in the year 2019 alone. In a single year, we lost needlessly more than the population of Detroit, Las Vegas, or Baltimore. And this was before the pandemic. In 2021, the number of missing Americans swelled to 1,092,293. A whole lot more than you could put on milk cartons. More than Atlanta and Miami combined. Even worse, half of them were under the age of 65. Yeah, so just in 2019 alone, 656,000 people died because there was there's been a study on this. How many people died each year due to not having healthcare? And it was 600,000. Yep. That's a lot of people who have died because they don't have healthcare. And then during the pandemic, it didn't quite double, almost double to almost 1.1 million people died in 2021, which is fucking insane. Bohr and his fellow researchers found that on average, not only were there more Americans dying relative to their peers abroad, the deaths were becoming younger. These are human beings who didn't have to leave us, people who had children, elders, and neighbors to look after, contributions to make, love and laughter to share. The researchers found a haunting way to help us envision the profound depth of tragedy based on the age at which Americans succumbed to the number of years they could have been expected to live had they been born in Finland, Spain, and Japan, or other countries studied. Bohr and the colleagues tabulate that in a single year, 2021, Americans sustained 25 million years of lost life. I can't work because of medical reasons, so I live on welfare. I don't have to pay into health insurance and still be. Oh, that's nice. Good for you. I mean, good that. Yeah. Being disabled and having issues it sucks, but at least they're taking care of you, and that doesn't happen here. If you have an impairment of some sort in this country, you're basically impoverished, and you're going to struggle for the rest of your life and probably die obscure and due to medical reasons that you don't have healthcare for. I'm in my professional job is accessibility, so I work for an online university here in the United States, and I am one of their accessibility people. So that's one of the things that I really get into. Prior to this job, I worked with a small county government, and I did an edit of a video on Medicaid. Here, it's the program where people, once you retire, you get access to healthcare. Oh my God, dude, I was so pissed. I was fucking enraged. What these elderly people have to go through to get healthcare, and they still have to pay for it. It's so horrific. I just can't. I don't know how old people aren't like mobbing the government and beating everyone up, because it's horrific what they have to go through to get healthcare and how much they have to pay for it. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. This is from was this from 2020? I think this is from 2020. The video that I did, but it was bad, really bad. 25 million years of life lost in just 2021. Again, the figure of 25 million years of life lost is only for the year 2021. In 2022, as even more people die at 60 instead of 80, millions more future years of life will never be lived. The coronavirus is supposed to prey most viciously on the elderly, but in America, people still in their working years have been dropping at higher rates during the pandemic than in peer nations, as they have been for years. Unsurprisingly, Black and Native Americans make up a disproportionate share of those vanished years in life. Yeah, of course, because people of color in this country are disproportionately cast into poverty, which means also a lack of healthcare. And then the biopsychosocial harms of poverty itself is a comorbidity. Stress, lack of education, lack of healthcare, crime, violence, and all that sort of stuff that's a part of being impoverished. What changed? Why in a country with so much to spend and so much spent on medical care are so many lives being cut short? How did we start out so well and end up so badly? Republicans? So basically, it'll start. Oh, yes, it starts with Nixon. It starts with Nixon in the 70s, because we had nonprofit healthcare prior to the 70s, and then Nixon signed the thing that allowed healthcare to be privatized. So we hit Nixon, and then we hit Ronald Reagan, which, of course, trickle-down economics fucked over everything. And then it kind of goes to hell in a handbasket after that. That's why. Bohr notes that the American mortality advantage in the late 1930s and 1940s was impacted by the high death rates in peer countries due to World War II. Okay. And that the disadvantage of much of Europe and Japan likely continued for about a decade after the war because of the widespread devastation. Okay, that makes sense. But he also points to several other factors that probably helped Americans live longer up to the 1950s, longer into the 1950s, such as the relative strength of organized labor, consequent rising wages, plus large public investments that help boost the middle class, like the GI Bill and the promotion of high home ownership, with the caveat that these advantages were primarily available to white Americans. Yeah, again, so there's kind of that example of the systemic and structural violence. This year, I'll have another 5 to 8 weeks in orthopedic clinic. After that, there will be a decision. Oh, that fucking sucks. Spinal surgery, that's, yikes. Well, I hope it goes well for you in the orthopedic clinic. I wouldn't want to do spinal surgery. I mean, if I was in Germany, I probably wouldn't mind because people there actually care. But I hope whatever you've got going on, it turns out okay. Because yeah, going through that is going through the stuff you're going through isn't going to be pleasant. I just hope it goes well for you, dog. Good luck. Yeah, so with the caveat that these advantages will primarily be able to white Americans. Yeah, so that's one of the things. There's so many of these system things like this. Redlining in the United States, a white flight, and the people of color fought in the war but didn't get much of the benefits here. Like the GI Bill wasn't available to people of color, and this has all happened in the 1940s and 50s, prior to the civil rights movement in the 60s and 70s. Bohr observes that the later period of American mortality advantage was likely bolstered by President Johnson's war on poverty, that it's LBJ, and the marked expansion of the safety net by Medicare and Medicaid, as well as the racial integration of hospitals in 1963, and environmental regulation which made the water and air healthier. All these programs and policies took some of the gains that occurred in the 1950s and expanded them so that it wasn't just people with middle-class incomes and white people who had access to the determinants of healthy long life, he explains. Yeah, so so this is some good stuff. And then once you get after 1968, the flying to the moon sort of a thing, there should be a bit of a bump there prior to Nixon hitting it. Yet, even during the period of relative mortality advantages, America's inequality and structural racism likely held back the country's longevity record for being as good as it could have been. Yeah, exactly, because the levels of inequality, the levels of poverty, greatly shortens the level of life. So, surgery has a 30% risk of permanent paralysis. Yeah, that's yeah, spinal stuff is very, very, very risky. I hope your orthopedic stuff goes well, so you don't have to go through that and worry about it, because that's and that'll be kind of life changing. Being paralyzed. I mean, yikes, super life changing. Yeah, hopefully the orthopedic goes well for you. You're in Germany, you're better off than you are here, so hopefully that'll be good. Older populations in the US have tended to have better mortality outcomes relative to peer countries than younger groups. Bohr cites the fact that Americans have to reach the age of 65 before benefits like universal health care kick in, as negatively impacting younger people's life expectancy. Maxery, how you doing? Welcome. It's been a while. We're reading an article on why the US people are dying in healthcare. I'll go and share the article for you. Yes, yeah, it is. He, him, his, yep, we're good. Yep. We're all good, dog. How have you been? Yeah, right now I'm just streaming on Saturdays and that's it. Okay, good. Thank you. I think I have it listed in the about section, do I? I don't have it in the main. Do I have it anywhere? I don't have my pronouns listed here. I will have to update that. Make a note. Yeah, we're doing good. We are doing all right. I didn't have a job for a while, 6 months or something, 5 months actually. And I finally got a job in May. So it's an amazing job working for an online university. I'm one of their accessibility people. This lighting isn't all that good. So yeah, that's been great. People are great, the place is great. We're doing really well actually. So yeah, thank you. How are you doing? Just like I had to change my battery in my headphones. My batteries just died. Not that I need them because I can't really hear anything. That's not the... Sadly unemployed. Yeah, it's a tough market. I searched for 8 months for work, and it took me forever to find. Mother, getting that. I didn't actually find a job until because I was applying for accessibility work, but I wouldn't apply for anything that said expert in it because I know a lot. Belarusian actually, but yes, close, very close. It's her birthday today, actually. She's on a kind of a vacation with some of her girls. There it is. Yeah, she's out with some of her Russian friends. Kind of up in northern Wisconsin. Yeah, she's doing good. She's doing very good. When I was in school, everything behind Poland was Russia. It's been a while. So you're definitely a bit older than I am. I'm 47. I'll turn 48 here in a little bit. Yeah, see, it's August, September, October, November. So 3 more months, I'll turn 48. Definitely feeling it. So you were a kid in Poland was behind Russia? How long was that? How old are you? That wasn't Poland existed prior to the fall of the Soviet Union, right? Oh my God. When was Poland founded? Sub-Saharan Africa that moved from Germany to the USA, but now I'm back. Oh, okay. Wow. 1919? Okay, that's when they were founded. Is that... Okay, that's pretty old. Okay, okay. Why'd you go back to Germany? Healthcare? It's appropriate. You're 39? Okay. So you're a little bit younger than I am. So what did you say? When I was in school, everything behind Poland was Russia. Yeah, welcome back. Yes. C1 Riches in Germany. Yeah, and what made you move from the US to Germany? Lots of reasons to go there, but I'm curious what the specifics are. And do you speak German too? I speak a little bit of Russian. Just a smidge. Enough to know when they're talking about me. That's about it. Being unemployment hard in the U.S., of course. Yep, I moved to the USA as I was working in marketing for okay, for Siemens. Okay, cool. Which I was employed in Germany. Okay. So you moved from Germany to the U.S. as a representative. Okay. Okay, cool. Good for you. Good for you. You speak English. You speak German. You speak your language from your homeland. What language is spoken in Sudan? I want to say Sudanese, but I don't think that's correct. I don't know. Arabic. Really? Fascinating. What other countries in Africa speak Arabic? Okay, that makes sense. Hadar. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, gotcha. Cold War, there was Poland. Okay. Ah, okay. Most of North Africa. Most. Okay, okay, okay. Good. Thanks for letting me know. It's Arabic. Cool. Wow. Learning something. Thanks for telling me. Appreciate that. Cold War there was Poland, and then the okay. All right. Crazy. Well, thanks for dropping into my stream and educating me. I appreciate that. So you speak German, Arabic, and English. Do you speak anything else while you're at it? And how about you, C. Wenrich? I'm assuming German, English. Do you have anything else? Any other languages? 300 million people first language. Yep. Nothing more? Ah. Well, good for you. You're miles and miles ahead of me. I'd like to pick up Esperanto to start. That'd be a great place to start. Then Russian, of course, because of my wife. That'd be great. Chinese or Hindi would be great because those are large emerging markets and stuff like that. Especially now, China is going to become a significant industrial powerhouse. Now that the United States is falling apart, German, English, bad French, and some crumbs of crumbs of Russian. Okay, all right, cool. You're still way ahead of me. Good for you. I'm glad you guys got these other languages. That's really awesome. I'll just take this off, honestly, so I don't hear anything. On my blog, I have a page, several pages on Esperanto, and I started cleaning up my links page a few weeks ago. So I have to go through and finish that. You know, I think learning a language opens you, yes, so many hidden treasures. As you mentioned, China. If you learn Mandarin, you have access to literature, music, thoughts. Yeah. Exactly. That would be my daughter has some friends who are Chinese and speak Chinese, or at least they're learning Chinese, and she would like to learn that too, just so she can talk with them in that language. I want to get my daughter to learn some more foreign languages. She's 13, but she hasn't really gotten into it too much. So we'll see. Yeah, it's in America, being bilingual gives you a lot of opportunities because so many Americans like myself don't speak another language. It gives you access to more cultures, more people. It makes you much more marketable when looking for work. If you can speak a second language in America, you have a lot more options. It can mean a $10, $15, $20,000 increase in the amount of money that you make for a given job just because you can speak another language. Because we're so monolingual. It's another one of those massive failures of our education system. Oh my God. Education, so important. I just wish we had more of it. We need to nationalize. We do here. We do. Yeah. Yeah, I bet it is quasi standard. That's I bet anyone who's not at least two languages there, person who only speaks one language there must be the only Americans in the group. Part of my policies is shifting to the metric system. Yeah, there's only like 2 or 3 countries who are still on the imperial system, and it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. Someday, maybe we'll shift to the metric system. It has to be. And like for my educational policies, I have at least 4 or 5 languages being taught in schools is what I would like to see. First, English, of course, and then you've got an indigenous language from whichever tribes are local to there. And then like Esperanto would be part of their introduction to foreign languages. So Esperanto first, and then of course English, Esperanto, an indigenous language, and then you can go Spanish, French, German, Russian, Hindi, Chinese, and so on and so forth. But yeah, we need our children to have at least 2 languages. 3 would be better. Really good for your brain. That's really good for as you age too. More languages, knowing more than one language is good for your brain and you aging. All right. All right, here we go. Older populations in the U.S. have tended to have better mortality outcomes relative to peer countries than younger groups. Bohr cites the fact that Americans have to reach the age of 65 before benefits like universal health care kick in. Now, this is deceiving. We don't have universal health care for people beyond 65, as I was bitching about earlier. It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. Kick in as negatively impacting younger people's life expectancy. This age-related trend shifted somewhat from 1980 to 2000, but the researchers found that in the 2000s, the age-related mortality picture is clear. The story of the U.S. disadvantage is primarily about people under 65 dying at higher rates than in peer countries. The year when America's overall mortality numbers diverged from other wealthy nations in 1980, according to the researchers' findings. Of course, Ronald Reagan. If the name Ronald Reagan comes to mind, you're not alone. Bohr notes that a Twitter discussion of the team's work has homed in on this association. However, he emphasizes that the story is more complicated than one man's presidency and its attendant policy changes, citing multiple factors such as the rise in opioid-related deaths in the 2000s, as well as increasing deaths due to obesity, diabetes, and metabolic syndrome. Gun violence has also increased America's relative death toll. Of course, high levels of inequality means all this stuff goes up higher, therefore a lot more deaths. I think some of what you find in these numbers is that the ratio of highest to lowest income disparity between the highest paid person to the lowest paid person in the business went up significantly. I want to say starting in the 70s or something like that. In the 90s, English was mandatory, and if you want a higher level of education, you have to choose a second language, depending on what your school offered. In Southwest Germany, that was often French. Oh, okay, cool. Second, my mommy is calling. Mommy. Mommy. I gotta let her know I'm streaming. I am streaming. Work fingers work. I think for well, to get into a normal college, I think you have to take a second language at least. But I went to a technical college. Yeah. So I'm not well educated on what I normally talk about is so the going thought is it needs to be disbanded, and I can accept that. Needs to be abolished because it's pretty much just a tool of the United States to implement its imperialistic policies over Europe, which is much of what we're seeing with what's happening in the Ukraine. Now, I do say that the U.S. needs to cut its military funding by 75%, and then we really need to start looking at not necessarily the UN, not necessarily NATO, but some sort of global organization that can help be the interventionist to help keep peace in the world. Means second, yes, yeah, right, but most people don't remember any of it. There isn't an emphasis on it, and like even if they do go to college, people don't remember any of it because there's no use for it, or there's very little use for it here in the country. Well, at least, because of cultural segmenting. So people of languages typically stick together. Yeah, a lot of people do go to college. A lot of colleges do require a second language, but a lot of people when they go there, they don't really know the language at all because our education just sucks when it comes to that. Yeah, my school didn't require that because it was a technical college. I went to actually it wasn't a technical college. It was a private college. I think one of my relatives is in the area. Let me check this again. Yeah, so one of my relatives is in the area. You think he's from Florida? If I jump on a train, I'd be in France in 45 minutes. So languages, right? So let me tell you this. Let me tell you this story. I was in Belarus. When I was in Belarus in that summer of 2002, I got to speak in front of a college class, a college English class that my best friend's girlfriend's sister's friend was teaching, and that's one of the questions they asked me was, why don't Americans learn other languages? And one of the things I say is because I think we don't look at it as useful, so we don't concentrate on it, because the United States is, we're English. Everywhere we go is English. Thousands of miles, it's English everywhere. And part of that is because we are kind of geographically isolated from foreign languages. Like Europe has a bunch of countries, a bunch of different languages. Here it's just the United States is a big block of English speaking. Yes, we do have a lot of immigrants, right? But you pretty much need English, otherwise you're screwed here. And I think if the United States was in Europe and smaller, I think that would be very different. That there would be much larger concentration on learning other languages, because it would be imminently useful. Just like you're saying there, Rich, that you go 45 minutes and you're in France, so French is useful. Yeah, you got all sorts. You've got lots of languages out there. You go 45 minutes, an hour or two, and you've got different languages. Sometimes 2 or 3 that you've crossed through just to get to where you're going. Yeah. It's that geographical isolation, which I think is a lot of it. Also, a lot of it is also that the American exceptionalism bullshit, right? Like people believing that the Bible was written in English and that Jesus was white, sort of ignorance. Got that sort of a stuff going on here, which is, yeah, sad, super sad. All right, in considering the widening gap between the US and peer countries in the 2000s, Bohr points to the work of Princeton economist Anne Case and Angus Deaton on deaths of despair, a term for lives lost to preventable causes like suicide, drug overdose, alcoholism. Researchers like sociologist Shannon Monat, who has studied the opioid crisis, have built upon this work, trying to understand why these deaths occur so frequently in the United States. Okay, so from these books here, The Spirit Level, The Inner Level, which I recommend everyone read, they talk about that sort of thing. As inequality goes up, suicide, these deaths of despair go up. Suicide, drug overdose, alcoholism. So if you want to reduce that, reduce inequality. It's very, very simple. And that's one of the reasons why 2 or 3 hours to Italy, 3 to Czech, 1 to Bavaria. Fair, yep. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And here, it's not that way. Albeit, in my town, which is small, we have a lot of people from Poland, Germany, Russia, some Bulgarians. It's very, very cosmopolitan here. And honestly, most of my life, I never met any of them until I met my wife, because she's Russian. Then she connects with the Russian community, all sorts of other communities. They want to know when I'm done so I can come over. Yeah, there we go. Son of a bitch. Okay, there we go. Yeah, 2 to 3 hours here is just the next state. I could probably get to Canada in, no, I would still 5 or 6 hours, but that would be still English. I have to go much further to get to Quebec to get to French. Yeah, that would be why. So yeah, so the reason why these things happen is inequality. Read those books. They're amazing books. They're required reading for my policies. They really are. They change everything in your understanding on why the United States is messed up. Bohr mentions the combined stressors of economic dislocation due to globalization and loss of jobs and economic opportunity in some parts of the country, especially among those lacking college degrees, and the social implications of these trends, such as increasing numbers of men without jobs who are no longer considered husband material, and thus lose the social support that comes with marriage. Compounding the problem, in Bohr's view, is the failure of our politics to address it or even see it coming. And this is what was happening under both George W. Bush and Obama. Okay. Sustainable energy works. Tell India. Okay, so CFC Hearts, welcome to my channel. Thank you. I'm glad you gave me a chance. So I talk about this in my policies and on my commentary on, let me go ahead and throw this out here. I had a commentary on COP26. I'll throw this in here for you guys to look at. Here you go. If you want to deal with that, it's actually fairly simple. If you want the world to really attack climate change, the United States has to lead the way on climate change. If the United States is not the leader, we are fucked as a country. I'm a complete doomer here. So in the next 1 to 200 years, most life on this planet is going extinct, even humanity. So the way to deal with this is the United States has to send trillions of dollars. They have to spend trillions of dollars over the next 10 years in our country to shift to sustainable energy. But they also need to send trillions to Central and South America, Africa, India, and then Europe also has to send trillions to Europe and Africa. No, not to Europe. They have to spend trillions in their own countries, but also spend trillions in Africa, India, Central and South America, because they don't have the money to do this sort of a thing, because the United States especially is engaging in economic warfare through the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and the World Bank. No, we can't. You're right. Basically, you say, okay, here's $1 trillion. If you shift to sustainable energy. This is $1 trillion to give you so that you can build there's $1 trillion. We'll also send people over there to train your people to install sustainable energy. They should be concentrating on geothermal, wave and ocean tidal, and high altitude wind turbines and power satellites. Trillion. It's just a number. It has to be a fucking metric shit ton of money. When I comment on the United States' plans for the environment, sustainability, and climate change, if the United States if their package does not start at $10 trillion over the next 10 years to fight against climate change, they are voting for human extinction. That's really what it is. It requires a shitload of money. We actually had an article that we covered on this. Globally, it'll cost $660 million to shift to sustainable energy, but we'll make that back in like 6 years or something like that, just from the savings alone. Do I have that? Let me bring this up. So the Global South doesn't have the money, the Global North does, because the Global North has been raping the Global South for hundreds of years. Then the economic warfare inflicted by the World Bank and the IMF contributes to the continued enslavement and stealing of the Global South. So that has to be changed. That has to change as well. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this. There's a great article on this. Oh, I'll find it at some point. It will be put in my Discord at some point. We ultimately have to spend trillions of dollars to save humanity from extinction. That's what's in the cost. That's what it's going to cost. And that one article talks about it. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to find it now. See if I can find it for you, because it was a great. Is this the one? Okay, yeah, this is the one. Here it is. Hold on. How much? Go away. Is this the one? Is this the one? I don't think that's the one. Hold on. I think it's in here. I don't think I have it. This has got to be it. Oh yeah, here we go. This is it. Let me share this with you. So this is the one. It's 60, 100. What? Okay. God damn it. Man. I'll get to your question in just a moment. I have so many windows open. Here we go. They say it's a what's the number they give? 60 trillion. I think they say 62 trillion is about what it's going to cost, and we will save 11 trillion a year, something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. Do you think the world wants to save itself from extinction? The world does, but the countries don't because of competition. They don't care about that. There's too much money to be made in the short term to worry about whether or not humanity is going to be there. Yeah, we won't even stop human rights violation in China. Yep. Yeah, of course not. I mean, we have human rights violations in this country too. I mean, the United States is perhaps the largest human rights violator in the entire world because we are the largest terrorist organization in the world. Right, I'm doubtful world governments really care. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, that's because of capitalism. That's because of monetary system. There's no money to be made in saving humanity from extinction. That's just the way it is. As long as humanity exists within a monetary system, human extinction is guaranteed. And that's why I talk about here that if you're going to do anything, saving humanity isn't possible within capitalism. It can only be done within a resource-based economy. And this is my post on that concept altogether. So yeah, by 2100, this planet is going to be super fucked. Super fucked. I mean, you already see, right now we are in the end of days at climate scales. Right? Fires, melting, floods, all sorts of horrors going on. So you really want to kill imperialism? Do you think anyone can change? So yes, imperialism, of course, has to die, otherwise nothing changes. No, I don't see any way that it can happen. The only way it can happen is getting off money. If you get off monetary systems, then there's no profit motive for imperialism. There's no profit motive for war. Oh, it is, very much so. I realize it's not going to happen and human extinction's happening in the next 200 years. I get that, believe me. But, this is what's happening. We're all going to fucking die and there's going to be nothing left on this planet. But I'm also providing an analysis of the problem, and I'm also providing with the solution, because that's just the way it is. If you want the basics of it, these are my policies here. I blog about politics. I blogged about it for a decade, and these are my policies. Well, yeah, that's exactly right. Might as well accept Dinosaur 2.0. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's what's going to happen. Usually, there was Jeremy Rifkin was talking about this, that from every extinction event we've had, right now we are in the Holocene, the 6th great extinction of the planet. It takes about 10 million years to recover. Yeah, you're exactly right. Actually, this would be Dinosaurs 6.0, roughly. I'm not sure when that starts going, but yeah, exactly. So these are my policies to fix it, the third step of which is a resource-based economy, which is not really fleshed out at this point. And this is my blog where I talk about capitalism and resource-based economies there. So, yes. Yep. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. I get what you mean. I'm not sure when the dinosaurs actually started. What was the first extinction? Was that plant-based or something? I don't know. But yeah, exactly. And my environmental policies are the biggest policies I have because there's a crap load of stuff that needs to change. You can check that out too. It's like 35 pages long. I think it's the longest of my policies. Let's go. No, go here. It is, yes, 35 pages long. So if you want to see what a solution looks like, I talk about it in there. And part of my environmental policies do kind of start shifting to resource-based economy sorts of things like sharing centers and microgrids and that sort of a thing. So there's a lot there to chew on. And I do talk about that as far as sustainable energy, we need to be using, concentrating on geothermal, tidal wave, Sagan. Yeah, Sagan's amazing. Love Sagan. Tidal wave, ocean, stream, which is kind of one group, ocean-based, and then also the geothermal. There's also the deep, what do they call it? Deep I can't remember what it's called. It's like deep crust geothermal. So geothermal and ocean, and then high altitude wind turbines. It is. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. If you're super bored and need to go to sleep, give it a try. I can help you get to sleep. I started writing this in 2019, and I got it done most of it 2019, 2020, and I updated every so often. Like today, I added a defund the FBI and defund the CIA. So that's part of my policies as of today, actually. In the last year, I haven't really done a whole lot of updating, especially once I started looking for work in September of last year. But I've done a few updates since then. So yeah, if you want to see what my thoughts are on this, I haven't put that in there yet. What I have said is, what have I said? What do I say? IRS. I say of. Let's look at IRS. I say, what do I say? So increase funding. There's. Let's go like this. Okay, here we go. So yeah, so all yeah, yes, definitely. Yeah, you're right. NSA. Okay, I have to start. Department of Agriculture has some use. DEA, yes. ATF, yes. NSA, yes. Good points. I'm adding those here. I don't sound like a leftist? Why not? I consider myself radical left, even though for some I'm not radical enough. Some call me moderate left. I mean, if you want change, you have to get rid of all this stuff. You have to get rid of capitalism, and you have to shift to a resource-based economy, otherwise we're fucked. Stop. So yeah, accountants should be public servants, as should lawyers. I have that in here. And then all the accountants that end up losing their jobs should be hired by the IRS to audit corporations in the 1%. Oh, I see what you're saying. I see. Yeah, well, so getting rid of those, the CIA and the FBI, has nothing to do with small government. It has to do with the United States being the largest terrorist organization in the world. It has to do with U.S. imperialism and murdering people of color globally for fun and corporate profit. That's what it is. It's not about small government. Actually, I want a much larger government with social safety nets, universal health care, universal education, universal 4K, universal, basically cradle to grave sort of stuff. But yeah, the NSA, the ATF, DEA, the CIA, the FBI, all of those are all about spying on and murdering people locally and murdering people globally. That's the problem. It's not small government. I like big government. It's U.S. imperialism. That's what it's about. The IRS, I haven't quite gone that far yet. I need to. Okay, good. I haven't delved that deeply into the taxation issue. I am into modern monetary theory. So, I mean, that is a thing. I understand that aspect of it, but how this all links together, especially when you get to local governments, because all local governments, the cities, states, counties are all driven off basically property taxes and other things like that. So I still have to figure out how that works. The CFR, the IMF, yes. What's the CFR? The IMF and the World Bank is the ones that I say need to end. Yep. What's the CFR? You're throwing acronyms at me, man. I don't know anything about that. Check that out. All right, cool. I'll have to check off the. No, stop. There we go. I'll have to do some reading on that. Yeah, so shadow group that is justice. Okay. Yes, the Federal Reserve needs to be returned to the people. Okay, yes. Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to end, and it's all there to serve the corporations and the rich. Agreed. Agreed. Hi. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for the follow. Currently, I'm streaming only on Saturdays. So I had to stop streaming in like September, October last year because I had to look for work. So I started streaming again, but I haven't picked up my other 2 days yet because my job gets done at 6. So I don't really have the time to do it. So at some point, I'm gonna try and find a way to get another day of streaming in. At least 2 hours on at least one other day. So we'll see what happens. And if you want to learn more, you got my policies, my blog there. I've got Discord. I live stream this to YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. I'm in a lot of places, so you can follow me there as well. Yeah. And if you really want to understand where I stand on things, of course, my policies are great. My blog is great. Start with my Cancer of Capitalism post, which is in the global change menu, and then go to the Q&A, the December 2020 Q&A post, and then that will link you to all my other resource-based economy posts. That's like over 130 pages of reading to get you on the problems and then the solution. So the problems with capitalism and then why a resource-based economy is the solution. So you've got your assignments. You need some light reading for this weekend. It's all there for you. Yeah. Okay. So Bohr mentions. Okay. So I've already talked about this. Increased numbers. Okay. Yeah. So I'll read this again so we can talk about this. Bohr mentions the combined stressors of economic dislocation due to globalization and the loss of jobs and economic opportunity in some parts of the country, especially among those lacking college degrees, and the social implications of these trends, such as increasing numbers of men without jobs who are no longer considered husband material and thus lose the social support that comes with marriage. Compounding the problem, in Bohr's view, is the failure of our politics to address it or even to see it coming. And this was this was happening under both George Bush and Obama. Okay, so listen, our presidents all know it. Our presidents all signed the trade agreements that made this happen. I think it was Clinton, who signed the trade deal that sent jobs to China. You want to know where all of our jobs went? They went outside the United States because our presidents and our Congress signed these trade deals to send our jobs overseas. That's why. That's happening. So globalization in and of itself is not the issue. It's the way that the United States is doing it. It's businesses sending their manufacturing stuff overseas because it's cheaper. Businesses under capitalism will always follow market efficiency. Market efficiency meaning profit efficiency. That which will create the highest profit is what businesses are always going to do. And our government is owned by the corporation, so that is the sort of bills and laws that Congress is always going to pass. So Bush saw it, Obama saw it. They all saw it because they all signed the agreements that allowed this to happen. So part of that is, of course, we don't have free college, and we also, because they signed these trade agreements that sent all the money and the jobs overseas, men and women can't get jobs, and therefore it's harder to get married because they have nothing financially to provide. And that's, if you want to see why we have so many young men shooting people, this is one of the reasons why. And every single president has signed for it. As Bohr and his researchers note, inequality is surely a big part of the picture. Okay, so we talked about this earlier, since you just popped in here, CFC. If you want some books to read on this concept, I have some books you need to read in my policies in the introduction. These first two are by the same authors. The first book was in 2009. The second one was in 2019. Spirit Level and the Inner Level. They are amazing books on the effects of inequality. basically, if you give them the level of inequality in a country or state, they can basically predict crime rates, literacy rates, teenage pregnancy rates, suicide rates, incarceration rates, and all sorts of things like that. So read the books; they're amazing. And if you want to learn more about a resource-based economy, the New Human Rights Movement is an amazing book. I wish I could give this person to every person in the developed world. Donut Economics is an amazing book too. She really goes in and tears apart economics. She's an economist herself, so she tears apart economics too. Great books, great reading. All right. As Bohr and his researchers note, inequality is surely a big part of the picture. In 2017, economist Peter Tenman described how America began to diverge into what are essentially two separate nations. In the 1970s, one nation, around 20% of the population, boasts college educations, good jobs, and access to quality healthcare. The other nation, where 80% of the majority resides, is stuck in low wages, insecure jobs, fewer education opportunities, and unaffordable and inadequate healthcare. These are the people getting sicker and dying younger than they used to. Tenman observes that the U.S. economic structure now looks more like that of a developing nation, than a wealthy superpower, which may help explain the country's mortality rate as a whole can't compete with peer countries where such bifurcation is less pronounced. Right, yeah. There's been, like, the UN did some sort of study on the U.S., and there's some parts of the United States which is effectively a third world country. Like, you look at, I think Appalachia specifically is where they looked. I mean, there you've got people, the middle of nowhere, in their mountain cabins, no running water, no electricity, and massive levels of poverty. And the United States has the highest level of inequality in the developed world. And we need to read this article because I have not heard about this. So, yeah. Okay, Timon. Okay. Thomas Ferguson, Director of Research at the Institute for New Economic Thinking, has studied America's increasing turn to money-driven politics, which has resulted in public-minded policies giving way to free market-driven policies that do not consider the needs of the majority. Of course, because the rich and the corporations write all the laws, and sometimes they will just hand the politician the bill, and they will take it straight to Congress, and they will try and pass it. And this is the way it's always going to be as long as, monetary systems are a thing, but more specifically, as long as we have high levels of inequality, as long as the rich are so much more richer than, the rest of us. They will always serve profit and not the people, okay? So there's no profit in doing so. These two worlds, the high income and the low wage sectors, interact less and less, which might explain why affluent Americans, including the doctors who attend them, are unaware of how dire the country's overall health record has become, or how many are dying young compared to their peer nations. But the low wage world knows something about it firsthand. The COVID crisis has illustrated how many Americans are not simply ignored, but placed directly in harm's way, expected to sacrifice their very lives to the benefit of the affluent. This attitude was succinctly expressed by Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, as the pandemic raged. There are more important things than living. Exactly. Wasn't there an old guy on Fox News who said, "I'd be willing to die to save the economy," or some stupid shit like that? And they were saying, "Yeah, sacrifice your grandparents just so the economy can survive." That's exactly what they want. Unless you can be exploited, you're not useful. Like an economy that mostly benefits the few, Bohr acknowledges the need to discuss policies that would help the U.S. turn around its dismal mortality record, but he believes that the first step is to make the public aware of the urgency of the situation. Even he, an epidemiologist, has been taken aback by what he and his colleagues found. What surprised me in this research is how huge the number of missing Americans is, and how little a part of our public conversation. I'm sure if you did a survey, people would have no idea of the scale of the excess mortality in the U.S. We're just way behind. Right, and I'll share this article too, since you know what so you can read it. So one of the things that they said is 2019, 600,000 people died due to not having health care. In 2021, it was 1.1 million people died. It due to not having health care. Turn for the worse? Unfortunately, if America was a patient, the doctor would be predicting a turn for the worse. For starters, the nation's pandemic response has been widely criticized. Yeah, it's fucking stupid because the American policy for COVID is do nothing. They're not doing anything. They're just hoping people die off enough that they can just move on. And the CDC's recent recommendation was very similar. We're just going to have to live with people dying because that's what people are stupid enough to be doing. Okay, all right. With data showing clearly that the U.S. record in saving people from the ravages of the virus is below average in the world and among the worst among developed and high-income nations. That's certainly not helping the mortality crisis. Yeah, and again, that all ties, it's not just policy, right? I mean, policy, well, it's 100% policy, right? It's not just the CDC playing politics and giving way to political pressure from the Biden and the Trump administration to do what they say instead of doing what doctors have been saying since the very beginning of the pandemic. Lockdown, mask, isolate, vaccinate, and then wash your hands. And we could have beaten a lot of this if we would have done like a 1-month lockdown. We'd be so much better off if we did that, but no. No one's ever going to do anything. And even Biden said he wasn't going to do anything regarding COVID before he even took office. So he kept that promise. Okay, not that I'm bitter. In a broader view, the fracturing of the country into a dual economy is not improving. To add further stress, Peter Temin has illuminated in his most recent book that racial disparities in the U.S. economy appear to be getting worse, not better. Of course they are. Bridled capitalism is not good for life expectancy. Yep. For example, the increasing move of private equity into healthcare since the 1980s in the U.S. has alarmed many experts, as INET has highlighted in research by Eileen Applebaum and Rosemary Batt, and also in work by Thomas Ferguson, Paul Jorgensen, and Ji Chen on private equity's political contributions. A series of articles on the pressure put on emergency rooms by private equity to cut costs has further illuminated the danger to American lives from this rapacious part of the financial sector, which squeezes ever steeper profits from human bodies. Yeah, and this is the issue. Anytime you privatize anything, it is always going to get worse because profits and competition and marketing and multi-million-dollar manager CEO paydays are always going to drive the movement to cut costs. Privatization almost always results in everything getting worse. So I'm for a lot of nationalization. Nationalize healthcare, nationalize education, nationalize the energy sector, or at least turn that into publicly run energy, and nationalize the banks, or at least publicly own them, just all of it. And I even go so far as to say as Amazon and Google and Facebook and Twitter should also be not necessarily nationalized, but put under a global, put under the cognizance of a global organization. But I don't have all that in my policies. I haven't quite gone that far yet, like as far as Google and Amazon yet. That's not in there yet. Meanwhile, as the health of Americans is deteriorating, the Supreme Court attacks environmental regulation, guns protections, and delivers a shocking blow to women's health. 6-3 conservative majority. What do you expect? If U.S. programs and policies of the 1960s expand upon the gains that occurred in the 1950s, then many of those in the 2020s are doing the opposite. They are intensifying the failures of past decades. It's one of the tragic ironies of our era, says Bohr. Populations that have seen some of the worst trends in health outcomes over the last 40 years are electing leaders who will further exacerbate those trends through policies that are inimical to public health, whether that's a failure to expand Medicaid, failure to regulate guns, or abortion restrictions that will lead to negative short-term and long-term health consequences for women. Right, and again, it's the fact that our politics are owned completely by the rich and corporations. If you have the money, then you can influence politics. But if you don't, you are completely unrepresented. Basically, the top 10%, the top 10% or so have representation in our government, whereas the rest of us, the 90%, we have zero representation in the government because we don't pay for Congress's re-election campaigns. The PACs do, the corporations do, the billionaires and the millionaires, they do. They are the ones who get a chance to sit at the table. You and I don't. We don't get jack shit, except for shorter lifespan and a lot more suffering. Music. All this points to the uncomfortable reality that U.S. is not that U.S. democracy is not functioning as it should. No shit, Sherlock. When elected officials do not reflect the will of the people, which surely at its most basic level is to live, then something has gone badly wrong. The thing I find most frustrating is that you'd expect in a democracy that the political system would respond when there's a mass health crisis, when people's material realities have been in decline, says Bohr. What you see is exactly the opposite. It seems very bleak, but then you think, gosh, there has to be an opportunity for new politics here. Yeah, so it's the first policy page I wrote was my electoral policy. That's before I even had my policy site. And there's this is probably in 2016. There was a study done by someone who basically said that the only time Congress ever listens to the people is when Democrats control everything, but even then, it's not that likely. I'll find this. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Here it is. There you go. I'll throw this in there for you. And actually, yeah, here's the Young Turks coverage of it too. They did a decent job of it there. So yeah, if Democrats control everything, then they will throw the people a bone. But that's not all the time. You know, every few decades they have to do it, just to live up to the concept that they are, you know, the party of the people. Yeah, so there you go. There is that. And then this is, what is this? This is America's Land of the Dying. Okay, this is, okay. Okay, let's go and read this one. This is an article they linked to. Let's go ahead and read this one next. How much time do I have? I have 40 minutes. I got 20 minutes. Do we have enough time to read this? We do. All right, we'll read this one. All right, any questions or comments before we continue reading this until... Anything? Questions, comments? Actually, I'm probably talking to myself right now. DOJ must immediately explain the reason for its raid, and it must be more than a search for inconsequential archives, or it will be viewed as a political tactic and undermine any future credible investigation and legitimacy of January 6 investigations. Andrew Cuomo. Fuck that dude. He's a right-winger. Don't care. Yeah, I don't follow the January 6th thing because it's just fucking stupid. It's all stupid. Trump is horrible. He should have been in jail decades ago. Decades ago. He's a liar, a con man, and a fraud. It's horrible. I hope he does go to jail for one of the many reasons that he should be in jail. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to put him in jail. Former Democratic presidential candidate Mr. Andrew Yang said that it will be excellent campaign material for Trump, who's not yet officially announced a run in 2024. Yep, that's true. Yep. It looks increasingly like the FBI raid was to find mishandled classified documents and not some other DOJ investigation, which was my first thought. Mishandling documents doesn't seem like a raid material. Yeah, it's political theater. I mean, nothing of value to the people will come of it. I mean, January 6th was right-wing political theater, is all it was. That's all it was. I mean, it's beyond stupid. Never should have happened. Trump should have been in jail a very long time ago. He shouldn't have been elected. The Clintons should be in jail for many things as well. I don't think it's redundant. Sure, put him in jail for something. He needs to be in jail. He's a horrible human being, but I'm not following it because it's not useful. It will do nothing for anyone. He'll get away with whatever he's doing because he's rich and famous. No real justice is going to be served here at all. The people who followed him and worshipped him and went and did some murdering and invading the Capitol, they're the ones who can pay. The 99%, us peasants, we pay. But the rich people, the 1%, no, they're not going to pay in any way that's in any way commensurate with how they should be punished. Like Trump, decades of lying, conning, and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah. Call me when he's in jail for 50 years and he loses everything. Then we can have a conversation. Until then, I got better things to talk about. Yeah. How you doing? I'm going to be meeting my parents with some family who came out of town. Which it's my last name's O'Neill. This is from my O'Neill side, even though I don't know the O'Neill side of my family. My parents divorced when I was really young, so get to meet some of them. So you're following it pretty closely then, the January 6th stuff? I know some people are. I see a lot of it on Twitter. People are following it, but it doesn't make any sense. Espionage Act. Okay. I'm not. I've heard, I've seen tweets talking about that, the Espionage Act. I'd have to look it up. But I don't know much about it. It's political theater. Okay, well, let's look it up. How about that? Espionage Act. The law prohibits obtaining information, recording pictures, or copying descriptions of any information relating to the national defense with intent or reason to believe that the information may be used for the injury of the United States or the advantage of... Okay. Makes sense. I wouldn't put it past him to be actually guilty of that. Honestly, he's horrible. Yeah, the only people who are going to hit with this are, well, Assange, the other people the whistleblowers. This is only used for whistleblowers. The rich don't get hit with this because, well, they've got money. Yeah, again, not much is going to happen. You didn't watch it? Okay. You watched the Depp trial? Yeah. I didn't even watch the Depp trial either. That's just... I mean, some people talked about on Twitter, why I don't have any interest in watching rich people duke it out. I mean, I've got, you've been on my stream at least enough to know what the sort of stuff I'm interested in. If you're not in this vein, or Marvel, or DC, or something actually interesting, I'm not going to take any interest in it. I didn't cover any of it. I think I only covered the result of the trial here, that Depp was found not guilty, or that Amber Heard was found guilty, or however it came out. That's pretty much all I covered. That's it. Yeah, that's not even interesting. Talking about why the world's fucked up and how we fix it. All that bullshit, Trump and Depp and Heard, it's all symptoms of the larger problem, which my policies, my blog posts work on trying to fix. Yeah. All right. 15 minutes. America is regressing into a developing nation for most people. This was from 2017, so it's a little bit dated. Oh, look at this. So a new book by economist Peter Temin finds that the U.S. is no longer one country, but dividing into two separate economic political worlds. You've probably heard the news that the celebrated post-World War II beating heart of America known as the middle class has gone from burdened to squeezed to dying. But you might have heard less about what exactly is emerging in its place. In a new book, The Vanishing Middle Class, Prejudice and Power in a Dual Economy, Peter Temin, Professor Emeritus of Economics at MIT, draws a portrait of the new reality in a way that is frighteningly indelibly clear. America is not one country anymore. It is becoming two, each with vastly different resources, expectation, and fates. Two roads diverged. In one of these countries live members in what Temin calls the FTE sector, named for finance, technology, and electronics, the industries which largely support its growth. These are the 20% of Americans who enjoy college educations, have good jobs, and sleep soundly knowing that they have not only enough money to meet life's challenges, but also social networks to bolster their success. They grew up with parents who read books to them, tutors to help them with homework, and plenty of stimulating things to do and places to go. They travel in planes and drive new cars. The citizens of this country see economic growth all around them and exciting possibilities for the future. They make plans, influence policies, and count themselves as lucky to be Americans. The FTE citizens rarely visit the country where the other 80% of Americans live, the low-wage sector. Here, the world of possibility is shrinking, often dramatically. People are burdened with debt and anxious about their insecure jobs, if they have a job at all. Many of them are getting sicker and dying younger than they used to. They get around by crumbling transport and cars that they have trouble paying for. Family life is uncertain here. People often don't partner for the long term, even when they have children. If they go to college, they finance it by going heavily into debt. I have never left the U.S., but I believe the U.S. is number one standard. I know you're just fucking with me, but yeah, and that's a lot of what the issue that Americans have. They're brainwashed into the American exceptionalism, which is a large part of what of Christianity in America, and of course the right wing is all about American exceptionalism. And that's a large part of why we're fucked up in the head as a country, because we think we're the best, even though we are one of the worst first world countries in the world. But it depends on where you look. A lot of like this book is talking about, the top 20% is doing well, but the rest of us aren't. There's parts of this country that are effectively third world countries. They're living at third world country standards, and we're looking at the Appalachia and other places like that. Rising homelessness, highest level of inequality in the developed world. We have the worst level of living, the lowest lifespan of the developed world. I mean, it's all sorts of other horrible things going on. You can only say those sorts of things if you are affluent, because much like we're talking about here, only the affluent think everything is okay. The other 80% of us know otherwise. Obesity, yes. Obesity, diabetes, heart attacks, suicide, depression, and all sorts of other things here in this country. And if you want to learn more about how you're totally, completely wrong, there's these two amazing books that talk just about that. That if you get like the spirit level and the inner level, if you give these authors the level of inequality in the country, they can pretty much predict things such as depression, suicide rates, literacy rates, for teenage pregnancy rates, and all sorts of other horrible things. We do have some of the best healthcare available in the world, but it's also very expensive, and you only get access to it if you're rich. But the 80% don't have access to that. And if you're disabled, or if you are elderly, Medicare and Medicaid, you're fucked. You die. So many people are dying because they have to ration insulin. They have to ration their medication. They have to ration a whole bunch of things. People aren't, like, poverty pays dividends because people don't have access to the healthcare they need. Therefore, they put it off. They go to work sick and they get other people sick. or they wait till their disease gets so bad that they're in the emergency room, and that's even more expensive, or they don't get the what they need. They don't get like the dental care they need, and then that affects them. Like having teeth that aren't good, that drastically affects your social standing, and which increases depression, potential for suicide, and also the potential for poverty. It does. It's not covered by the smallpox vax. It's of the same sort of thing as smallpox. If you've had the smallpox vaccine, you won't be as powerfully affected by monkeypox, but there is also a vaccine for it, although the United States only has like 1 million of them made, and they need to make more. Need to make a lot more. A lot more. Because the United States, are we, what? I'm not sure. I think we're like the 3rd highest in the world for number of monkeypox. I mean, we're the world leader in COVID, but I don't think we're number 1 quite yet for monkeypox. Yeah, California, New York, Illinois have declared health emergencies, but I'm not sure of anyone else. I only see some articles on Twitter for the most part talking about this stuff. But it's you don't want monkeypox. You don't want it. It'll fuck your shit up. It will. It really will. We've got two pandemics going on, and the government's doing jack shit about it. You want to see the differences between the upper class, the 20% and the 80%, that right there. All right, guys, I gotta get going. I gotta stop streaming for today. I got some family things to do after this. Any last minute questions or comments before I call this a day? First, thank you guys for giving me some of your time today. I do really appreciate that. And I stream right now I'm only streaming on Saturdays from 2 to 5 U.S. Central Standard Time. So if you want to follow me, please follow me, and then I'll stream on those days. I'm trying to get another day in here somewhere, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, any other comments, questions before we call it a day? Going once? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. I expect if nothing happens out of it, he probably will. And just like the quote up above, which says Yang says he'll use this to run. Yeah, he might. I don't know. If Biden runs, I think he probably will. We'll see. Whatever it is, it's gonna be clusterfuck. I'm not voting for either of them, so fuck them all. Her return. Kamala. Oh fucking Jesus. That's Kamala. She didn't get any electoral. She didn't get any. She was like she didn't have any votes in the primaries. And no she didn't get any electoral votes in the primaries. People hate her. Oh my god. You're killing me, dog. You're killing me. Newsom's horrible too. Ugh. God. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for telling me that. I appreciate that. Ruining my weekend, dude. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend. Stay disease-free, and we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.